UIUC to MOMA, the craziest career adventure ever. Thank you so much for coming. Usually no one pays to hear me speak. I don't know about you guys. I usually have to pay my therapist to hear me talk about myself for an hour. My name is Jami Becker, and I live in Decatur, Georgia, right in town Atlanta, in an idyllic 1910 bungalow with an idyllic garden and an idyllic family. I'm about to take you on a journey, but first I must warn, all the difficult and disappointing parts have been scrubbed. The number one lesson you must learn in life is things, even with talent, hard work, and entitlement, will be challenging. The pictures people post and the chatter they share is only the tip of the iceberg. In an honest estimation, you could look at what I've accomplished and say, wow, how cool. But you also may say she could have done so much more, and both things are completely true. Life is full of so much balance and duality. For me, time has brought me peace with it. But when I first started out in architecture school, I was much less balanced and reflective of my emotions. High strung, I always struggled to not have my passions solely steer my ship. I am certain my temperament required patience. This is my idyllic home with my idyllic family. However, my story towards designing professional solutions started in my creative youth and blossomed right here, just like you guys at the UIUC School of Architecture. Wake up. Now, this is important. Remember to save all of your work from architecture school. For someday, far, far away, in middle age, one of your kind professors who remembers one of your impactful charrettes may indeed invite you back, just like me. Perhaps you haven't hit your prime yet, and while your presentations may seem uneventful now, in the future they will read about you and beg for your precious time. I promise you with utmost certainty, I never thought I was saving my work for this reason. Now, you guys probably all save your work digitally now, but be sure and print it out in case you no longer have access to whatever drive you're saving it on in the future. You'd be amazed at some of the incredible things my classmates have created. I was always extremely creative growing up. I did paintings in undergrad. This is a giant painting. It's about 8 foot by 5 foot that was on display at UIUC. I was also the photo editor of the Daily Illini, where I love taking pictures of all the exciting things going on around campus. Currently, I'm a mobile architect at Carter's. Many of you may be too young to know this, but it is one of the biggest baby clothes companies in the world. I just jumped ship at Carnival Corporation, where I held the same title. Now, this may really shock you, but mobile architect doesn't mean I design physical objects people inhabit. I actually design technical solutions. Crazy, complicated, often hard to achieve technical solutions. This means I figure out how to make digital ideas real. Throughout my career, whether for the energy industry or hospitality to agriculture, there are enormous technical challenges to be solved that require understanding complex systems and solutions and mapping the possible with the practical. In the end, we create things used by millions of people, whether designing safety response software for an oil spill or getting fried shrimp delivered to the Lido deck. Many details must be carefully evaluated to ensure whatever our goal may be, it is achieved. While my job sounds very technical, it requires equal components, technical acumen, and creativity to do it to its best. Imagine the late 80s, giant curly hair, baggy balloon pants, bright colors, and my face much less wrinkled, my eyes bright and glossy with dreams. After undergrad, I either didn't want to face the real world or desperately wanted to pursue my dreams as an architect. I was ridiculously creative and imagined someday I would be like Frank Gehry, filling the world with sculptural objects people would wonder at. I was a talented artist, taking figure drawing classes since I was 13, something I now as a parent am perplexed by. Anyways, I love the classes, they were fantastic, and they did help me expand my artistic skills. This is a drawing that I did just when I was 13 years old. I got to live in Europe during my studies. While in graduate school here, I ached to explore the world. I was fortunate to get a Rotary scholarship enabling me to go to school in Venice, Italy for 1 year. I got this scholarship over other students who were undergrads at Yale and Harvard and Princeton, and I was shocked that I actually received it and thrilled. And my family was over the moon. I shared an apartment overlooking the Grand Canal, 6 floors up, with captivating views. At night, we would eat huge meals I would cook as cruises sailed into the lagoon outside our window. As a girl growing up in a middle-class 1950s post-war Chicago suburb, it was a bounty of visual wonder. While there, I was able to work for a professor restoring cathedrals. Venice is a place of visual wonders. This was the view outside my window. Forgive the old photo that I had to take a photograph of to get it in the presentation. This is another picture out my window in Venice. I was quite shocked to arrive there and see I had this incredible apartment 6 floors up with 3 views to the sea. I was overwhelmed with my good fortune. And again, another photo out the window of our apartment. And this was my crazy roommate in Italy that also greeted me at our apartment. Doubly fortunate as I was offered the opportunity to spend an additional year at the UI School of Architecture on the grounds of Versailles. While in Europe, I was fortunate to travel and sketch. I got to see everywhere from the Blue Mosque in Istanbul to the Acropolis in Greece to the idyllic villages in Germany. All were as inspiring and mesmerizing. I have the very best memories of my incredible times there, traveling with my UIUC friends. This is me back in the day. I know I look exactly the same. Traveling. This is the piazza in Cortona in Italy. I did an enormous sketch of the whole piazza there, and it got lost on the airplane. This is a photograph of the Blue Mosque from my travels with my classmates. And this is the Arsenal in Venice, a sketch I did while living there. Also in Venice. This is in Rome, piazza. And another sketch of Rome as well. And this is the Acropolis in Greece. In my time at U of I loved being the track 3 program, designing some crazy and fantastic buildings, never ever sleeping, pushing the envelope on traditional presentations. Where many of my classmates' designs felt overwhelmingly composed of right angles. And to some, I was probably very talented, maybe visionary, and to others, a little bit crazy. We all have our own special flavor that we bring to our designs, and that's the beauty of being in this industry. So this was one of my projects. We had done a sacred grove project. So I had this kind of triangulated tower that you could climb up. Now you guys probably do a lot of your drawings now, maybe on digitally or on computer, but back in the day we were drawing, hand drawing everything, and we didn't have all the software that's available today. I even burned the edges of this vellum paper with a match to get that effect on the side. And I wasn't satisfied. I don't know which one of these. I did the same presentation twice. I don't know if you guys ever do that. So I had this different color scheme I needed to try out. So this is that sacred grove that I was showing you before. And this was a project, I think it was a museum on the water. So I had taken Coke cans and opened them up and had nailed them down to the base to get this reflective quality going for my project. That's an overview of it. And this was another tower project. Forgive the poor photographs, they haven't all weathered so well. Now, this was my thesis project. It was a giant organic kind of cave-like book space under the ground that I wanted to kind of look like it was from like an excavated archaeological site. So this was a drawing that I did for that. So this was quite different than I remember a lot of the other students' projects. And I remember feeling a bit out there, right? And it kind of feeling like but I think we all feel that way. I think that was just probably just the time. But So this was a drawing of that organic space and this kind of book reading area that would be above the ground. And here's some more drawings of that, more articulated. I was very enamored of earthships and recycled building materials. And so all in Gaudi. And so all those things were inspiring my work when I was in school. That's another image from the project. And there was kind of a cafe space off to the left. And more of those drawings from that as well. Now, I was here. I just want to move my sidebar here. I don't know if you guys can see it. But I was here long before Me Too. I was at U of I during the very, very much Us Alone movement. But I was very thankful to fund graduate school working for my longtime friend, Professor Catherine Anthony. When I came to U of I, Professor Anthony was also new here and was one of the first female professors in the School of Architecture. All these years, she has toiled to create a more equitable world. And my job was to analyze her data regarding women and minorities in the building industry. Me and my big dreams sat in a tiny, concrete, claustrophobic room, almost a closet, looking at tiny punch cards emitted from a little machine that somehow was the hot technology of the day, processing her analytical data on racism and sexism in the building industry. And it was devastating. Women, people of color were getting nowhere in the building industry. Identical twins, male and female, would both graduate from Harvard, and the woman would be designing pathetic house additions while her brother, in broad strokes, left his imprint on the world. I was filled with gratitude to help Professor Anthony and have her make me feel more at home in the School of Architecture, and to help her with her early publications. Long ago, we worked on these pamphlets and presentations, and I helped design these drawings to promote her fabulous work. I felt I had to escape the room. Those punch cards were not the only thing that were getting punched. My dreams were getting a little battered. I could only see disillusionment in my future. I definitely wanted to also have a family. I didn't just want to give all that up for my design dreams, even though they were grand. It's true, I'm a cheater, a career cheater. So I began cheating on my architecture degree at the Beckman Institute. I was lucky, my growing love interest in computers were just across the quad. I began taking classes there, the first supercomputer and the rumblings of Netscape humming in the background. I realized on the computer, I could design anything without the parameters of reality bogging me down. All my fantasies I could feed into the great machine. In my mind, I would not need to deal with sexism. I could make whatever I desired. As I did work for architects on summers, I realized quickly the work did not suit my personal temperament. The pace was too slow for my racing ADHD, unmedicated mind at the time. And I did not grip my intellect. It did not grip my intellect. I admired my classmates, but I didn't see myself doing this forever. I worked for architects in Madison, Wisconsin, designing restaurants and schools. I loved creating the little models, and it reminded me of making miniature homes out of popsicle sticks for my sister at summer camp. But it wasn't just right. I wasn't Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It was Goldilocks and the Three Careers. So this was a cafeteria I designed for architects in Madison, Wisconsin. And when I designed it, they said it looked great, but the challenge was it would look more expensive, and that the citizens would be upset that the cafeteria cost too much, even if it didn't. Things like this drove me crazy. I couldn't imagine making something that people liked that we couldn't do because it looked too expensive, even if it wasn't too expensive. I hope they were telling the truth. It's time to pivot. We're on the cusp of the 90s. My Walkman weighs me down on my runs. My hairspray makes it hard to breathe. And we didn't have, like, I would never think I would be doing a presentation on Zoom virtually. Like when you guys come back and do a presentation, you're probably going to be holograms. Amongst these challenges, I tell my parents, I know I am finishing my degree, but I want to move to California and work in the computer industry. And they say what any good parent would say at the time. You're crazy. But you have seen my drawings by now, so you should know that. Rule number one, never, ever, ever listen to your parents. Everyone, please repeat after me. Never listen to your parents. My parents are dinosaurs. I love you, Mom and Dad. Haha, I tricked you all. I know many of you have incredible families full of fantastic wisdom and are thankful for all the encouragement and resources they provide you, as I am to my family. But I am California dreaming. I pack my bags, and my friend from architecture school, Maria Thainer, and I head to California, taking the long and scenic route on the way to drop her off at architecture graduate school in Oregon. We soak up the Badlands in North Dakota, the funky hippie earthships in New Mexico, and Mesa Verde in Durango, Colorado. We even sleep in a converted stable in Oklahoma. Yeah, a converted pig stable. When I finally arrive in California, my heart expands with the intense natural beauty. I realize my moods require wonderful scenery to feel at peace, and I am raptured of my fresh surroundings. My soul still explodes, thinking of soaking the beauty high up over Sausalito as the sun descended over the Pacific. The shades of blue calming the angles of my mind. The scenery in California is dramatic. And at that time, living there, even in San Francisco, was cheap. Silicon Valley is just waking up and opportunities abound. This is me at the Badlands back in the day, my friend Maria, my companion in travel at Mount Rushmore. And this is Mesa Verde, Durango. It was so cool to get into another space and explore all the wonders America had to offer on our road trip out there. My dream at the time was to design the animated sets for Disney films. And I went to SIGGRAPH, the giant computer graphics conference in LA. SIGGRAPH is still happening. There, they were screening the first Pixar short film, Luxo Jr. Much to my delight, I actually got an offer from Disney Imagineering. I don't know if it's still like this, but at the time, you had to wait for the job to open up for 6 months or so. It's odd, but that's how it was. I also got an offer from Pixar, but Pixar at the time was not owned by Disney and was just starting out. And they told me as a production assistant, I would be going on coffee runs and I would be the first person laid off, which terrified me at the time. I really needed to get to work. I am mesmerized touring Pixar. The office is filled with beautiful graphics and imaginative vibe, but I am bummed my job will not be created there if I take it. I'm also fortunate to be offered an opportunity to work for Arthur Dyson. Arthur Dyson was a disciple of Frank Lloyd Wright, and he lives in Fresno, an arid dust bowl, far from the urban buzz of San Francisco. And I am eager for some urban energy at this point. I desperately need to make money, so I take a job at a small software development firm. I'm just going to show you Arthur Dyson's groovy work so you get a little bit of what that was like to see that. So cool. This was from Dwell magazine. Pixar's Luxo Jr. is digitally interesting. So I'm going to play this for you. I don't know how many of you guys have actually gotten to see this movie. Oh, it did not play. Hold on just one sec. No, I know looking at Luxo Junior now, the graphics look so crude, but back in the day, it was really, really difficult to achieve even that level of mapping and lighting and animation. So this was really groundbreaking at the time. That's what I wanted you guys to see, is how far along the whole computer graphics industry has evolved. So that started back then, but back then that was super exciting to all of us to see this film. We'd never seen anything quite like that before. And then obviously the storytelling and emotional content of Pixar was always riveting. I am fortunate in my new job to design and manage many cool projects, a 3D home design tool, fantasy versions of traditional games, and educational software titles. While I'm not working at a really fancy firm, I learn a ton and I'm able to expand my managerial skills as well as do parts of the work I'm capable of. I love my job and the brilliant people I work with. My degree may not be the most impressive of the bunch as I work with Stanford, Berkeley, and Princeton grads, but I'm a proud UI grad now to see how far it's gotten me. But I am in charge of managing the team of 20 plus people. My ingenuity, work ethic, straightforward, good old fashioned Midwestern grit helped me out a lot. I love the challenge of learning the software and the process and riding the front edge of technology. Most importantly, I feel completely at home in my wacky ways in California. For our fantasy battlegammon game, I finally get to create some really fun sets that our artists love bringing to reality. So I started out sketching these environments, and then the 3D artists that work for actually for an outsourced firm would go ahead and produce them to create the realistic images. And this is the finished product of the battlegammon game of the board in the end. So it was kind of these cliffs with a bridge over it. So it had this, you know, kind of Tolkien-esque vibe, I guess. And so these were some of the sets. We did an animated movie going into it. So I got to create this little fantasy world that the animation would start in to bring it into the game. Ditto for our fantasy chess experience. So these are actually films. So excuse me that I have to go back to the other modality to go ahead and play this. Oh, there it's starting. Then I got to design the fantasy chess environment. You could see some of this harkens back to my original drawings in architecture school that were quite fantastic. And this is the chess video. And there's the chessboard. I also get to design sets for the original Star Wars Pod Racer game, as well as blow up a few cities on computer for Mech Warrior. As a liberal, I must confess, I very much enjoy. Apocalypse, it turns out, was very much in my repertoire. Finally, I applied for a job at Naxos. EA, where The Sims was made, was originally the Naxos company. I was fortunate to land a job in the original The Sims video game, working on a team of about 12 people with Will Wright, the creator of SimCity. Naxos gets acquired by EA. Well, it is a long, long time before I know it. My good fortune is about to grow. The OG The Sims will become the #1 selling video game in the world. Something we nor the marketing team has any idea is they're constantly about to stop production for fear no one will actually like it. When we bring it home to our families to test, they say, "This is silly. Who will play this?" And yet, hours later, they are still playing. With most games, more money is in marketing than in creating. So the execs are constantly roaming in suits, whispering the whole operation will soon be shut down, making our whole team shake in our cubes. The Sims does indeed see the light of day, but we don't know it while we're sitting there so worried. We're up all night working on it. We're really putting our heart and soul into this game and having a good time making it, but we think it all may end up in the bin. Unlike my previous job, where I wore many hats, my job on The Sims was much more specific. I had to create and animate 99.9% of the objects in the original PC-based game. There were two other artists working on the game. One created the characters and one animated the characters, and they were both named Eric. There are a lot of us with the same names on the game. There's also another Jami, and just the 12 of us. We toiled much like in an architecture school all freaking night. Empty Sprite cans collect on my workmate's desk, and I would drive home, desperate to find a parking spot near my home at 3 a.m. We would toil amongst much rackets jumping up and down when the programmers would achieve some impossible tech feat. The very best part is when we would test putting something we created in the game. The little characters would ooh and ah how much they liked it, even if the art director hated it. It was meta before Facebook knew what meta was. I, I would say, but they love it. Even if you said, "Jami, fix some, fabric on this chair. It doesn't have enough sheen on it. Change the lighting." I think the characters love it. They're really happy. We got this for them. Great. Here are some pictures from the original The Sims. I got to, pose the images just right. The famous aquarium. A lot of the things, let's be honest, they're not gorgeous. It was all made to look just like Macy's. But at the time, it was cutting edge graphics. Ooh, I hope that's okay for public school, that picture. It was really fun working on all the fine details of all the objects. Lucky me, my work from The Sims was on the cover of the Wall Street Journal business section and on the cover of US News and World Report. Yay, yay, yay me. Things snowballed along. I left when we were just game complete to start the startup Go Mingle, which was just like Meetup before Meetup existed. We sold it off for a bit and I had kids. But The Sims, of course, these are the cover of it. Not the cover. This is in the US News and World Report. And this is the cover of the Wall Street Journal business section. And I got to create all the designs for those as well. After I had kids, I thought I would go back to work full time. But of course, children, um, they take a lot of your attention and you want to spend a lot more time with them than you may realize before you have them often. Either way is great. But for me, I wasn't as eager to work out of my house. And so I started one of the first organic kids clothes companies, Green Tea Baby. And eventually I expanded the name to include inner chai to not just cover baby items. And I sold into over 250 boutiques worldwide and into Whole Foods internationally. And I finally got written up in magazines for my own ideas. It was the beginning of tongue in cheek. And not only were they organic, but they put me sayings like, I'm at peace being a princess, or I'm at peace in my dirty diaper. Even though I'm solidly Gen X, I felt like I was onto something with that millennial speak. We decided to uproot our family to Atlanta to escape the outrageously expensive Bay Area. In Atlanta, the scenery is equally beautiful, but a more habitable scale. Atlanta, which I call 1950 the good and the bad, holds my heart to this day. These are some images from Green Tea Baby and Inner Chai and some of the publishings. I was in some of the top baby retail magazines. That's one of our little t-shirts. And that's my little boy on the right who's now in college. And there's my little set. I ran that entire business out of my house and had a production cut and sew company and managed the t-shirt printing as well. The year was 2008 and the market was crashing, but the iPhone was happening. I had to either move my baby production to Atlanta or jump back into tech. Now, if you have an actual business with hard goods, that means the more you sell, the more risk you take on for manufacturing everything and waiting for the companies who purchase your goods to send you the payment for them. So with the market crashing, that was a bit nerve-wracking. So, but the iPhone was happening. And so I went to a startup weekend at Georgia Tech to dip my toes back in. There was one iPhone developer there, and he picked to work on my project, an iPhone business card app called Footprint. He was so in demand, I was like, why don't I be him? I was tired of being an artist. I felt I had it in my back pocket, and I decided I would learn to program iPhone apps. I had always had a head for technical design. While working on The Sims, I often contributed to technical solutions that helped efficiency. And prior to that, my boss from the original company told me the UI for the 3D home tool design is what was used for the template for the new 3D Studio Max. So basically the pulling walls with the arrows and the rotating, that is exactly what my 3D home design tool that I had designed for the software company in Berkeley, that's how it worked. He had thought we should patent it at the time, but balked at the expense. I get my first app on the Apple Store when there are only 25,000 apps on the store. It's called iBooklight, and while it is very simple, it's quite popular, even rated as the #1 app in some countries' book category. I make many more apps, both for myself and for my clients. Again, I'm lucky to get news coverage. So there's a big article in the Atlanta Business Chronicle about the burgeoning app market, and they interview me. There I am many years ago, and there are a few of my apps, and Attempted and Footprint, that I worked hard on. I create Mobiomatic, a do-it-yourself mobile app maker for businesses. So this actually enables a business to go online with a back end CMS and put in their graphics and pick a game to help promote their business. So this is a little like monkey maker game for a business called Felted Heart. And so we created this thing so that anybody could go online and just make an app, and then it would appear basically in the App Store. So it's just a fun little toy. But it has in it, you'll see eventually, events and location and all the things you need to promote your business, as well as social media sharing. I don't want to bore you guys too long, but it gets to those aspects of the application. And I make kids' toys like Farmer Hall. So this is like a sit and fin toy for little kids. And And I get to do illustrations that are really fun in it, as well as program it, which really feeds my intellect. And I love. So I love doing both sides of the house. I predict I will either be successful enough with my own apps or at least make money consulting, and all the while being 100% totally intellectually stimulated, which my day job as a mom of little kids, while big on love and snuggles, was not completely fulfilling. I had found the Everest I could climb mentally, and I was captivated. About this time, a friend sent me the article The Sims had been acquired by MoMA as part of their permanent collection, and it was their first acquisition. That's when it struck me. The very ugliest thing you ever make may indeed end up in MoMA, but it is a fantastic and fun game, and I'm extremely grateful to have been lucky to be at the right place at the right time and working. Life is indeed full of endless surprises. Some people's career is like a rocket ship headed with clear trajectory toward outer space, but mine is more like an adventure, climbing a mountain through an ever-changing landscape of balancing family and work, but always with the tools I have in my backpack: curiosity, creativity, design, and tech acumen. At the center of my journey is always my family, the constellation my career adventures have revolved around, and the emerging gig economy making it much easier for me than it would have been a few years ago. My family and my career are not one nor the other, but odd roommates that have learned to compromise to coexist peacefully, sometimes getting along much better than others. I've stayed riveted by the front edge of tech, always keen on challenging myself, whether it's creating VR experiences for Deloitte in the Carlos Museum or Party on the Moon. I love to think about the future and use tech skills to problem solve. Before the pandemic, I was consulting as a VP of product development for 2 years at AgVoice. I was able to create a speech-to-text technology that beat both Apple and Google's on-device context-based speech. So when you talk to Siri, I did it better. Apple even interviewed me to run the Siri team. A year after the pandemic hit, when I mistakenly thought the worst was behind us, hungry for wanderlust and seeking stability, I jumped from the uncertain startup innovation world to Carnival Cruise as mobile architect. The irony is not lost on me that seeking stability financially and figuratively on a cruise ship during a pandemic is amusing. Regardless, I was wander curious when I was required to go on the ship for the first cruise out after the pandemic. July 4th, I set sail for work towards Honduras Bay. There are much worse places to co-work. With the pandemic not letting up and my second contract up for renewal January 1, I packed my bags one more time and now at Carter's Corporation, one of the world's largest baby retailers, as mobile architect. I love what I do. My brain still buzzes with the next best way to make any tech dream real. And my parents finally said, "You are so smart to go into technology." Amazing. I don't have many wise words. I have kept family balance, intellectual stimulation as my North Star. In retrospect, of course, as a woman in tech, my path has been fraught with sexism, just as it would have been in architecture. I've always tried to push forward, doing the very best work I could, sometimes in very challenging circumstance. And I would keep my head down, hoping to help pave the path forward for the women and minorities that would come after me. Now my skin is tough, and I've learned one thing: that which does not kill you does make your story stronger. I could give an entire lecture on surviving sexism in technology, but my love for what I do and its rewards made me feel I had no choice but to stay. We can't be anyone but who we are. Most days, I don't know if I'm a success or a statistic, perhaps a bit of both. Go forth, bring your best self to everything you do, forgive your missteps, and believe you are always, always growing. You are. With time, whatever is emotionally challenging, you learn to navigate with greater grace. I wish you all the best as you pursue whatever your personal destiny is. I hope the world opens its doors for you and you find fresh ways to enrich the universe. Most importantly, keep designing, keep dreaming. I still do. I have a civil action side hustle, the civil arts. Keep going. Thank you all so much for your time.